He tried to escape the alien vampire's lair, but she claimed his body and blood. No, shadows of Zeloria. The warning lights flashed crimson across the shuttle's cockpit as Eli Reeves fought against the gravitational pull of the uncharted planet. His mission, a routine survey of the Andromeda Quadrant, had gone catastrophically wrong when an asteroid field shredded his navigation systems. Mayday, Mayday. This is Explorer 9, systems failing. Trajectory locked on unknown celestial body, Eli transmitted, knowing the message would take years to reach Earth. The craft shuddered violently as it breached the atmosphere, purple-tinged clouds rushing past the viewscreen. His last conscious thought before impact was of the strange, ethereal beauty of the violet landscape rushing up to meet him. When Eli awakened, the world around him shimmered like amethyst crystal. He lay on something soft yet firm, in a chamber hewn from what appeared to be translucent purple stone. The air felt thick, almost nourishing, filling his lungs with unexpected ease despite the shuttle crash that should have killed him. The traveler awakens. The voice materialized in his mind rather than his ears. Melodic, feminine, with an otherworldly resonance. Eli turned to find a figure standing in an arched doorway. His breath caught in his throat. She was humanoid but unmistakably alien. Her skin was a deep luminous purple that seemed to pulse with inner light. Long, silvery hair flowed past her shoulders, contrasting with the darkness of her eyes that held the depth of endless space. "Who are you?" Eli's voice sounded strange in the crystalline chamber. "Where am I?" She glided toward him, her movements fluid and graceful. "I am Nira, sovereign of Zeloria. You are in my sanctuary." Her lips didn't move. The words simply appeared in his consciousness. "Your vessel was destroyed. You would have perished had I not intervened." Eli attempted to stand, only to discover an invisible force keeping him tethered to the crystalline bed. "You're restraining me." A smile curved Nira's lips. "A precaution. Your kind tends toward impulsive actions when frightened. My kind?" Eli struggled against the invisible bonds. "Humans," Nira replied, approaching closer. "We have observed your species from afar. None have visited Zeloria. Until now." She reached out, her slender fingers hovering inches from his face. Eli felt a strange warmth radiating from her skin. Not heat, but energy, pulsing in rhythm with what must be her heartbeat. "Your life force is extraordinary," she whispered into his mind. "So vibrant, so rich with emotion and vitality." "Unlike anything on Zeloria," Eli recoiled from her touch. "I'm not some specimen for you to study. I need to contact my people." Nira's expression shifted subtly. "That is impossible. Your communication device was destroyed, and Zeloria exists within a temporal fold. Radio waves cannot penetrate our atmosphere." The implications hit Eli like a physical blow. Stranded, possibly forever. "Then, help me rebuild my shuttle," he demanded. "The technology required does not exist here," Nira replied. "Our powers are different, biological rather than mechanical." Days passed in the Crystal Palace. Eli learned that Nira ruled Zeloria's northern hemisphere, a realm of perpetual twilight where her people, the Zelorians, lived in harmonious communion with the planet's energy. They sustained themselves not through food, but by absorbing life force from their surroundings, plants, animals, and occasionally, visitors from distant worlds. When Eli discovered this last fact during a conversation with a servant, cold fear replaced his initial fascination. That night he made his first escape attempt. The crystal corridors seemed to shift and change as he navigated them, as if the palace itself were alive, responding to his intentions. He found an exit leading to a forest of towering purple vegetation, but hadn't made it more than a few hundred yards when the ground beneath him became soft like quicksand. Nira appeared beside him as he sank, her expression a mixture of amusement and disappointment. "Did you truly believe escape would be so simple?" "Why keep me prisoner?" Eli demanded. "What do you want from me?" Nira knelt beside him, her face illuminated by Zeloria's 3 moons. For the first time, Eli noticed a hunger in her eyes, something ancient and powerful. "Your life force calls to me, Eli Reeves," she admitted, her mental voice intimate in his mind. "You are unlike any being I have encountered in my centuries of existence. I wish to understand you, to know you." As the ground solidified beneath him, Eli realized with growing dread that he wasn't merely a captive. He was sustenance. and Naira's appetite was far from satisfied. Blood Bond 2. More escape attempts had left Eli exhausted and increasingly desperate. Each time he tried to flee the Crystal Palace, Zaloria itself seemed to conspire against him, vegetation entangling his limbs, terrain shifting beneath his feet, or strange mists disorienting his senses until Naira inevitably appeared to retrieve him. Tonight, he sat on the balcony of his chambers, watching Zaloria's 3 moons rise above the violet landscape. Despite his captivity, he couldn't deny the alien planet's breathtaking beauty. The atmosphere shimmered with bioluminescent particles that danced on air currents like earthly fireflies, but far more numerous and delicate. "Your thoughts are troubled," Naira's voice whispered in his mind before she materialized from the shadows. Her purple skin gleamed in the moonlight, her silver hair cascading down her back like liquid mercury. "Wouldn't yours be?" Eli countered, refusing to meet her gaze. "I'm trapped on an alien world with no hope of rescue, held captive by a being who sees me as, what, a curiosity? A meal?" Naira approached, her movements silent as she joined him at the balcony's edge. "You misunderstand the nature of my interest, Eli Reeves." "Then enlighten me," he challenged. "My people are dying," she said simply, her mental voice carrying a weight of sorrow that surprised him. "Zaloria grows weaker with each passing cycle. The life force that sustains us diminishes. I have watched my subjects fade, their light dimming until nothing remains but crystallized husks." Eli finally turned to look at her. In the moonlight, he noticed something he hadn't before, a certain translucency to her skin, as though she were partially composed of the same crystal as her palace. "And I'm what? Your solution? A battery to drain until I'm empty?" Naira shook her head, silver hair swaying hypnotically. "No, you are something far more valuable, a catalyst. Your life essence is compatible with ours in a way I've never encountered. It could regenerate what we've lost." "At the cost of my life," Eli stated flatly. "Not necessarily." Naira moved closer, her eyes reflecting the 3 moons. "There is an ancient ritual, a bonding that would link us. I would draw sustenance from you, yes, but you would receive something in return. Longevity, enhanced perception, a connection to Zaloria itself." Eli laughed bitterly. "So I'd become your personal blood donor for, what, eternity?" "You would become my consort," she corrected, her mental voice intimate. "Bound to me through the exchange of essence. Neither fully human nor fully Zalorian, but something unique." Before Eli could respond, a tremor shook the Crystal Palace. Naira stiffened, her attention drawn to the horizon where an ominous crimson cloud was forming. "Krell," she whispered, a note of fear in her mental voice. "Who's Krell?" Eli asked. "My rival. He rules the southern hemisphere and believes that draining outsiders completely is our only salvation. He has sensed your presence." Her eyes locked with Eli's. "He will come for you, and his methods will not be gentle. You will not survive his hunger." Another tremor, stronger this time, sent cracked spiderwebbing across the crystal floor. "We've run out of time," Naira said urgently. "Choose now, Eli Reeves. Bond with me and gain my protection, or face Krell alone." Eli felt the ground shake beneath him as distant roars echoed across the landscape. Through the clouds of dust rising from beyond the palace walls, he glimpsed massive, shadowy figures approaching. Warriors with crystalline armor and weapons that pulsed with angry red energy. "How do I know I can trust you?" he demanded. "You don't," Naira admitted. "But unlike Krell, I wish you to survive." She extended her hand, palm up, where a small crystal dagger had materialized. "The choice is yours." With the sound of battle erupting outside, Eli made his decision. He took the dagger from her hand. The ritual chamber lay at the heart of the palace, a dome of perfect crystal that amplified the light of Zaloria's 3 moons into a concentrated beam at its center. Naira directed Eli to stand within this light, facing her across a pool of shimmering liquid that resembled mercury but flowed like water. "The essence of Zaloria," she explained. "The planet's blood, much like your own." Following her instructions, Eli used the crystal dagger to make a shallow cut across his palm. The pain was sharp but brief. His blood, startlingly red against the purple and silver surroundings, dripped into the pool, creating ripples of gold that spread outward. Naira mirrored his action, her blood flowing silver into the mercury-like substance. Where their blood met, the liquid began to glow with an intense light. "Now we complete the bond," she whispered, her mental voice resonating throughout the chamber. She stepped into the pool and beckoned Eli to join her. The liquid felt warm against his skin, vibrating with energy that seemed to penetrate his very cells. Naira took his wounded hand in hers, pressing their cuts together. The contact sent a shockwave through Eli's body, not pain, but a rush of sensation more intense than anything he had ever experienced. Images flooded his mind. Naira's memories. Her centuries of existence, the slow decline of her people, her desperate search for salvation. He felt her loneliness, her burden as a ruler, her fear of failure. In turn, he sensed her experiencing his memories, Earth's blue skies, the love of his family, his ambition as an explorer, his fear of dying alone in space. When they emerged from the pool, Eli felt fundamentally changed. His senses had sharpened dramatically. He could feel the pulse of Zaloria beneath his feet, sense the life force of every creature within the palace walls. Most intensely, he felt Naira, a constant presence in his consciousness, their life forces now inextricably linked. "It is done," she said, no longer communicating telepathically but speaking aloud for the first time. Her voice was melodious with an otherworldly timbre. "We are bound, Eli Reeves. Your life sustains mine and my strength protects yours." As if to test this claim, the palace shuddered under a massive impact. Through their new bond, Eli sensed Naira's alarm. "Krell has breached the outer defenses," she said grimly. "Come, we must face him together now." Twilight Communion. 3 months had passed since the blood bond, transforming Eli in ways he could never have imagined. His skin had taken on a subtle iridescence, visible only in certain light. His reflexes had heightened, his strength had doubled, and he could now communicate telepathically with Naira across vast distances. Most significantly, he had developed an intuitive connection to Zaloria itself, able to sense disturbances in its energy and, with concentration, manipulate the crystalline structures that comprised much of the planet's surface. The battle with Krell had ended in stalemate. The rival sovereign, a towering figure with obsidian skin and eyes that burned like dying stars, had retreated to the southern hemisphere, but not before vowing to return with greater forces. "The outsider's essence belongs to all Zalorians," he had declared, his mental voice a thunderous intrusion in Eli's mind. "Your selfishness dooms our people, Naira." Now, in the relative peace that followed, Eli and Naira had fallen into an unexpected rhythm of coexistence. No longer purely captor and captive, they had become something more complex. Partners bonded by necessity, their survival now interdependent. Tonight, they walked together along the crystalline shoreline where an ocean of luminescent liquid lapped at the violet sands. 3 moons reflected on the surface, creating a tapestry of light that shifted with each gentle wave. "I never thought I could find beauty in captivity," Eli admitted, skipping a flat crystal across the shimmering water. "Yet here I am, mesmerized by an alien world. Are you still my captive?" Naira asked, her mental voice carrying a hint of vulnerability that surprised him. "The bond allows you to traverse Zaloria freely now. The planet recognizes you as part of itself." Eli considered this. It was true. He could now move through the landscape without impediment, the vegetation no longer entangling him, the terrain remaining stable beneath his feet. Yet the bond itself was a tether more binding than any physical restraint. "I still can't leave the planet," he pointed out. "I'm still stranded." Naira's expression flickered with something like hurt. "Would you still choose to leave, knowing what you now know? Feeling what you now feel?" The question struck at the heart of Eli's internal conflict. Since the bonding, he had experienced Naira's emotions as if they were his own. Her determination to save her people, her centuries of isolation as their ruler, her growing affection for him that transcended mere interest in his life force, and he could not deny his own evolving feelings. What had begun as Stockholm Syndrome had developed into something more genuine, as he'd witnessed her compassion, her wisdom, her vulnerability when they were alone. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "Earth is my home, but," she prompted, stepping closer, the silver of her hair catching moonlight. "But home isn't just a place," he finished quietly. "It's a feeling. And sometimes—" He hesitated, then reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining. "Sometimes I feel more at home here with you than I ever did on Earth." The admission hung between them, charged with implication. Through their bond, he felt her surprise, then a wave of emotion so powerful it momentarily overwhelmed his senses. Joy, relief, desire, "Show me," she whispered aloud, her actual voice still rare enough to send a shiver down his spine. "Show me this feeling of home." Eli drew her closer, their bodies fitting together as if designed for this purpose. When their lips met, a surge of energy passed between them. Not the violent shock of their initial bonding, but something warmer, more intimate. The kiss deepened, and Eli felt the boundaries between them blur, their consciousness merging as their physical forms pressed together. That night, on the shore beneath Zaloria's 3 moons, they discovered a new dimension to their bond. Their intimacy transcended the physical, their minds and spirits intertwining as completely as their bodies. For Eli, the experience was unlike anything human passion could offer, a total communion where every sensation was shared, amplified and reflected back in an endless loop of pleasure and connection. Afterward, as they lay entwined on the warm crystal sand, Naira shared the full truth of her past. "I was not always as you see me," she confessed, her mental voice soft with vulnerability. "Once I was like Krell, believing that total consumption of outsiders was our right, our salvation. I led raids on passing vessels, drawing their crews to Zaloria through manipulated distress signals." Eli stiffened, but she continued before he could respond. "Then came the visitor who changed everything, a being from a world beyond your knowledge. Before I consumed him, he showed me a vision of interconnectedness, of symbiosis rather than parasitism. He taught me that true survival comes not from taking, but from sharing, creating bonds that nourish both parties." "What happened to him?" Eli asked, though he suspected the answer. "I changed too late to save him," Naira admitted, regret coloring her thoughts, "but I vowed to honor his wisdom. I began seeking a compatible being with whom I could form a true bond, one who could help me demonstrate to my people that there is another way to survive. And then I crashed here," Eli murmured. "Yes, when I sensed your life force, I knew immediately. You were the one I had been waiting for." She traced the subtle iridescence that now marked his skin. "What I did not anticipate was this. This? Falling in love with you," she said simply. The admission resonated through their bond with perfect clarity. There was no deception, no manipulation, only truth. Eli pulled her closer, his heart racing with the realization that he felt the same, despite everything that had brought them together. Yet even as they found this new understanding, a shadow loomed over their communion. Through their connection to Zaloria, both sensed a disturbance growing in the southern hemisphere. Krell gathering forces, feeding on captured creatures to strengthen himself for another assault. And more troubling still, Eli occasionally caught glimpses of something else through their bond, a faint signal pulsing from the stars above. Though Naira couldn't interpret it, he recognized the pattern immediately. A rescue beacon, from Earth. Someone was coming for him. As dawn broke over the crystal landscape, Eli faced the realization that soon he would have to make a final choice between worlds, and no matter which he chose, part of him would be forever lost. Crimson eclipse. The rescue beacon grew stronger with each passing day, a persistent rhythm in Eli's consciousness that both elated and terrified him. Through their bond, Naira felt his conflict, though she couldn't decipher the signal's meaning. "Something troubles you," she observed as they stood atop the highest spire of the Crystal Palace, surveying the vast purple landscape that had become their shared domain. In the 6 months since their bonding, they had worked together to strengthen the northern territories. Eli's human ingenuity combining with Naira's ancient knowledge to create defenses against Krell's inevitable assault. "My people are searching for me," Eli finally admitted, turning to face her. The silver flecks in his eyes, a physical manifestation of their bond, caught the light of the setting sun. "The signal I've been sensing. It's an Earth rescue mission." He felt her reaction through their connection. First shock, then a deep, resonating fear that she quickly tried to suppress. "How long?" she asked, her mental voice carefully controlled. "Weeks, perhaps. A month at most." Eli reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining with familiar intimacy. "Naira, I need to tell you something I've suspected for some time." She waited, her silver hair stirring in the gentle breeze. "The crash wasn't an accident," he said. "The asteroid field that damaged my ship. It was a deliberate creation. I believe Krell has been luring human explorers for centuries, creating hazards to bring them to Zaloria." Naira's eyes widened. That would explain how he has maintained his strength while my people weakened. But why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I needed to understand the full scope of it first, Eli explained. Through our bond, I've been accessing Zaloria's memories. The planet itself remembers every crash, every visitor. Krell has been harvesting humans systematically, draining them completely, then using their vessels to transmit false signals to attract more. And now your people follow one such signal, Naira concluded, horror dawning in her expression. They fly into a trap, Eli nodded grimly. We have to warn them somehow. And we have to stop Krell before he can use their arrival to gain enough power to overwhelm us. Before Naira could respond, a searing pain tore through their bond, a psychic attack of tremendous force. Both dropped to their knees as the crystal beneath them trembled. He comes, Naira gasped, blood trickling from her nose, silver droplets that evaporated into mist upon touching the crystal floor, sooner than we anticipated. The horizon darkened as a massive storm front approached from the south, not a natural weather pattern, but a manifestation of Krell's power. Within the swirling clouds, Eli glimpsed the silhouettes of an army, crystalline warriors similar to those who had attacked during his bonding ritual, but far more numerous. We're not ready, Eli realized aloud. The outer defenses aren't complete. Naira rose to her feet, summoning her strength. Then we must rely on the inner defenses and each other. The battle began at twilight. Krell's forces crashed against the Crystal Palace like a tide of obsidian and crimson. The defense mechanisms Eli had designed, channeling Zaloria's natural energy through strategic crystal formations, incinerated the first wave of attackers, but Krell had anticipated this. The second wave carried shields grown from the same crystal, immune to the energy pulses. Eli and Naira fought side by side, their movements perfectly synchronized through their bond. His newly enhanced strength combined with her centuries of combat experience made them formidable. For hours they held the central chamber, Naira directing blasts of concentrated life force while Eli manipulated the crystal architecture to trap and crush their opponents. But even their combined power couldn't match Krell's raw strength, bolstered by countless absorbed lives. When he finally entered the palace himself, the very air seemed to darken around his towering figure. "Surrender the human, Naira," he commanded, his mental voice booming through the crystal chambers. "Give him to me and I will allow your subjects to live as my servants but alive nonetheless." "You know I cannot," Naira replied, standing protectively before Eli despite his attempts to move beside her. "Our bond is unbreakable. To surrender him would be to surrender myself." Krell's laugh echoed like breaking glass. "Then I shall take you both." He moved with shocking speed for his massive size, crossing the chamber in a blur. Before either could react, his obsidian hand closed around Eli's throat, lifting him from the ground. The contact sent waves of excruciating pain through the bond as Krell began the process of extraction, drawing Eli's life force directly through his skin. Naira screamed, the sound both audible and psychic, shattering crystal throughout the palace. She launched herself at Krell, but he swatted her away with his free hand, sending her crashing into a far wall. As darkness crept into the edges of Eli's vision, he reached desperately for their bond, channeling every remaining ounce of his strength to Naira. "Take it," he urged mentally. "Use it. Finish him." Through the haze of pain, he saw her rise, her form suddenly luminous with combined power, his human vitality amplifying her Zalorian abilities. She moved like lightning, driving a spear of pure crystallized energy through Krell's side. The giant roared, dropping Eli to the floor. Black ichor poured from his wound as he turned to face this new threat, rage contorting his features. "You cannot defeat me," he snarled. "I have consumed hundreds like him. Their strength flows through me." "That is your weakness," Naira replied, her voice clear and strong in the crystal chamber. "You take without consent, without exchange. You consume until nothing remains. But true power comes from mutual strength." As Eli struggled to maintain consciousness, he witnessed a transformation. Naira began to glow brighter, drawing not just on his freely given strength but on the energy of Zaloria itself, the planet responding to their bonded essence, recognizing them as its true guardians. The battle that followed was like nothing Eli had ever witnessed. Two ancient powers clashing in a display of forces beyond human comprehension. Crystal shattered and reformed, energy surged and dissipated, Reality itself seemed to warp around the combatants. In the end, it was their bond that made the difference. While Krell fought alone, drawing only on what he had stolen, Naira and Eli fought as one, their strengths combined, their weaknesses compensated for. Their determination doubled. When Krell finally fell, his obsidian form cracking like glass, the release of energy was so powerful it knocked Eli unconscious. His last sensation was Naira's presence in his mind, weakened but victorious, holding on to him as they both slipped into darkness. He awakened in their private chambers, Naira's worried face the first thing he saw. "We won," he whispered, his voice raspy. "Yes," she confirmed, brushing silver-streaked hair from his forehead. "Krell is no more. His essence has returned to Zaloria, to be purified and reborn in time." Eli attempted to sit up, wincing at the pain that still radiated through his body. "And the rescue beacon?" "My people?" Naira's expression grew solemn. "It grows stronger. They will be here within days." The reality of his choice loomed before him. Stay with Naira on Zaloria, embracing this new existence they had forged together, or return to Earth, to his family, his career, his humanity. Through their bond, he felt her trying to suppress her fear of losing him, her love overwhelming any selfish desire to keep him against his will. "I won't ask you to stay," she said softly aloud. "I understand what Earth means to you." Eli reached for her hand, drawing her closer. "And I understand what I mean to Zaloria, to you. This isn't a simple choice anymore." As they held each other in the aftermath of battle, both knew that the true test of their bond still lay ahead, a challenge not of combat, but of heart and soul. Stellar convergence. The Earth vessel entered Zaloria's atmosphere at dawn, its sleek form breaking through the violet clouds like a silver arrow. From the highest tower of the Crystal Palace, Eli watched its descent, his emotions turbulent despite the outward calm he maintained for Naira's sake. "They've bypassed Krell's traps," he observed, a hint of pride in his voice. Commander Chen always was the best navigator in the fleet. Naira stood beside him, regal in a gown of crystalline fabric that shifted colors with her movements. Since their victory over Krell, her people had begun to flourish again, the northern territories glowing with renewed life force as the balanced exchange of energy, inspired by her bond with Eli, spread throughout the population. "Will you tell them everything?" she asked, her mental voice private and intimate despite the guard stationed nearby. Eli considered this. How could he possibly explain all that had transpired? His transformation was not merely psychological but physical. The silver flecks in his eyes, the subtle iridescence of his skin, the telepathic abilities, the extended lifespan he would now enjoy. The medical exams alone would cause an uproar. "I'll tell them what they need to know," he finally answered. "That I survived. That I've learned about a civilization unlike any we've encountered before. That there's potential for peaceful contact." He didn't voice his deeper concern. That humans, upon discovering Zalorian's ability to absorb life force, might react with fear rather than understanding. Earth history was filled with examples of first contact gone wrong, of indigenous populations decimated by those who feared what they didn't understand. The rescue shuttle landed in a clearing half a kilometer from the palace, close enough for convenience, but far enough to show respect for Zalorian sovereignty, a gesture Eli had requested through the rudimentary communication he had established using a modified crystal transmitter. "It's time," Naira said softly, taking his hand one last time before they would be seen by human eyes. Through their bond, he felt her love, her fear, her acceptance of whatever choice he would make. They descended to the palace entrance, where an honor guard of Zalorian warriors, now loyal to both Naira and Eli, formed a pathway leading toward the shuttle. As the vessel's doors opened, Eli's heart raced with conflicting emotions. Commander Chen emerged first, followed by Dr. Levin and Lieutenant Kwame, Eli's closest colleagues from the Exploration Corps. Their expressions moved from diplomatic neutrality to shock to joy as they recognized him. "Eli," Chen called out, breaking protocol to rush forward, only to be stopped by the crystal spears of the honor guard. "Stand down," she ordered her team, who had reflexively reached for their sidearms. "We come in peace." Naira stepped forward, her natural luminescence subtly dimmed to avoid overwhelming the human visitors. "Welcome to Zaloria," she said aloud, having practiced human speech extensively for this moment. I am Sovereign Nira, and this, she gestured to Eli, you already know. The reunion was a careful dance of diplomacy and genuine emotion. In the palace's reception hall, over a feast of earth provisions brought for Eli and crystallized essence for the Zolorians, explanations were exchanged. Eli shared an edited version of his experiences, emphasizing Nira's role in saving his life while downplaying the blood bond and omitting Krell's systematic harvesting of humans. So you've been living among them all this time, Dr. Levin marveled, her scientist's eyes cataloging the changes in Eli that she clearly found fascinating. Your physiology shows remarkable adaptation to the local atmosphere. More than adaptation, Eli acknowledged, deciding honesty was necessary about at least this aspect. I've undergone changes that allow me to thrive here. My DNA has been restructured. Commander Chen's expression hardened. Was this done against your will? Before Eli could answer, Nira spoke, her voice growing more confident with practice. On Zoloria, life force is sacred. It is never taken without consent. Eli chose to bond with our world as I chose to bond with him. The subtle emphasis on bond wasn't lost on Chen, whose keen eyes moved between them, noting their proximity, the unconscious synchronization of their movements. I see, she said finally. And now that we've found you, Eli, what happens next? Your family has been waiting for news for nearly a year. Earth believes you dead. The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Through their bond, Eli felt Nira's resigned acceptance. She had been preparing herself for this moment, steeling herself to let him go if that was his choice. I need time, Eli said at last. This isn't a simple matter of rescue anymore. I've become part of something here, something important. Chen nodded slowly. We have supplies for a 2-week stay. Enough time for you to sort things out. That night, alone in their chambers, Eli and Nira faced the reality of separation. Their lovemaking held a desperate quality. Each touch, each kiss, each mental caress potentially the last they would share. I could go with you, Nira suggested afterward as they lay entwined. Perhaps on Earth. You would wither, Eli interrupted gently. Earth doesn't have the energy you need to survive. And without Zoloria's connection, our bond would fade. Then stay, she whispered, a rare plea from one so proud. Stay with me. Ruled Zoloria by my side. We could build something beautiful together, a true symbiosis between our peoples. Eli held her tighter, torn between worlds. And never see my family again? Never feel Earth's sun? Never show you the oceans, the forests, the cities I've told you about? They fell silent, the impossible choice hanging between them. The solution came 3 days later, not from either of them, but from Dr. Levin. After extensive analysis of Zolorian crystal and the planet's unique energy patterns, she approached them with an unexpected proposal. The crystals here don't just conduct energy, she explained, excitement lighting her features. They store information, memories, experiences, even consciousness. Theoretically, with the right interface, a consciousness could exist within the crystal structure itself, independent of a physical form. Eli grasped the implication immediately. A backup, a way to be in 2 places at once. Levin nodded. It would require significant adaptation of our quantum computing systems, but yes, you could create an imprint, a complete copy of your consciousness within a crystal matrix that could remain here, bonded to Nira, while your physical form returns to Earth. Would it truly be him? Nira asked, hope and skepticism warring in her voice. Or merely an echo? That's the remarkable part, Levin continued. The quantum entanglement properties of these crystals suggest the 2 consciousnesses would remain connected across space, sharing experiences, growing together. 2 bodies, but in a very real sense, 1 mind. The next week passed in a flurry of preparation and experimentation. Eli and Nira, together with Levin and the most skilled Zolorian crystal shapers, created a matrix specifically designed to house a human consciousness enhanced by Zolorian energy. The process would be risky. No such transfer had ever been attempted, but the alternative was an impossible choice between worlds. On the final day before the Earthship's scheduled departure, they gathered in the heart of the Crystal Palace, the same chamber where Eli and Nira had first bonded. The matrix, a perfect sphere of iridescent crystal, hovered in the center of the room, pulsing with potential. Are you certain? Nira asked one last time, her mental voice private despite the others present. Eli nodded, squeezing her hand. 2 worlds, 2 forms, 1 soul, he replied, repeating the phrase that had become their mantra during preparations. This isn't an ending, love. It's an evolution. The process began. Eli lay within a circle of crystalline pillars, the matrix suspended above him. As Levin initiated the Earth technology and Nira channeled Zalorian energy, he felt his consciousness expanding, stretching beyond the boundaries of his physical form. For one terrifying moment, he was everywhere and nowhere, disembodied, fragmenting. Then came Nira's presence along their bond, a beacon guiding him through the void. His awareness settled into 2 distinct points, his physical body and the crystal matrix now glowing with internal light. When he opened his eyes, his physical eyes, he could simultaneously see through the crystal's perception. 2 perspectives, 2 sets of sensations, perfectly balanced and connected across quantum space. It worked, he whispered, his voice echoed by a harmonic resonance from the crystal matrix. Nira reached out, touching first his physical hand, then the hovering crystal. Through both, he felt her touch, her essence, their bond intact despite the division of his consciousness. The humans in the room stared in wonder, instruments recording data they could barely comprehend. But Eli understood. He was now neither fully human nor fully Zalorian, but something unprecedented, a bridge between worlds. 1 month later, as the Earthship prepared for its return journey, a changed Eli Reeves stood at the boarding ramp. His physical body would return home, explain the miracle of Zaloria to Earth scientists, reunite with his family, continue his career as an explorer, albeit one permanently connected to an alien world. Meanwhile, his crystal consciousness would remain with Nira, ruling Zaloria as her consort, helping her people transition from parasitism to symbiosis, their bond serving as a model for a new way of life. This isn't goodbye, he told Nira as they embraced one final time before witnesses from both worlds. Every moment, every experience, we'll share them all. 2 forms, she replied, both aloud and mentally. 1 soul, he finished, kissing her as the crystal matrix hovering beside them pulsed in harmony with their heartbeats. As the Earthship lifted off, carrying his physical form toward the stars, Eli experienced the wonder of dual perception, the thrill of returning home and the joy of remaining with his love, simultaneously present in 2 worlds separated by vast cosmic distance but connected by a bond transcending space itself. And in that moment of stellar convergence, both human and Zalorian observers witnessed something extraordinary. The purple skies of Zaloria and the blue atmosphere of the departing Earthship momentarily shimmered, with the same iridescent pattern, a visual manifestation of 2 worlds no longer separate, but connected through a love that had rewritten the very nature of existence.